During his prime, Todd Gurley was the best running back. From 2015 to 2018, Todd Gurley finished top 3 in rushing yards 3 times, finished with a league lead in touchdowns 2 times, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and won Offensive Player of the Year. This Todd Gurley would find himself completely out of the league. How career of Todd Gurley. Let's go back to college, where he was a part of probably the best running back group in college history with him, Sony Michel, and Nick Chubb. Todd Gurley was amazing at Georgia. He had over 1,000 yards his freshman season, almost 1,000 yards in his sophomore season, and despite playing 6 games in his junior season, he had over 900 yards. Why did he only play 6 games though? Well, he got suspended for a part of the season for a very dumb reason, and also he tore his ACL near the end of the season. This would hurt him for the future, but it didn't hurt his draft stock, as with the 10th overall pick, the St. Louis Rams selected Todd Gurley. It was going to be interesting to see how Todd Gurley would come back from the ACL injury. He would miss the first 2 games of the season and only get 6 rushing attempts in his first game of his career, but after that game, he took the league by storm.
Defensive touchdown and a pitch to Gurley. Gurley very fast. Oh, what a hurdle and a first down for Todd Gurley. First down. Pitch to Gurley.
In just his rookie season, Todd Gurley would establish himself as one of the best running backs in the NFL. He finished with 1,106 yards, which finished in the top 3 in rushing yards, and he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Before the NFL draft, the Rams traded up from 15 to 1, and they selected quarterback Jared Goff, who would be the quarterback for their future. With this, along with Gurley, along with Aaron Donald, who was becoming one of the best defenders in the league, along with the fact that they were in LA, the Rams had a very bright future. However, 2016 was not a good year for Gurley or the Rams. Despite the attempts going up, the yards went way down, and Todd Gurley suffered a big sophomore slump. And 6 rushing touchdowns is still a career low for Gurley. The Rams went 4-12, which was very disappointing, and they fired Jeff Fisher, which needed to be done and should have happened a long time before that. The Rams would hire Redskins offensive coordinator Sean McVay to be their new head coach, and he'd become the youngest head coach in NFL history. So with the new head coach, how would 2017 go? Gurley and the Rams went off. Todd Gurley had a career high 1,305 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, and he won Offensive Player of the Year. The 13 touchdowns also led the NFL in touchdowns, and the Rams went 11-5 and made the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. This Sean McVay hiring was turning out to be excellent. Sean McVay was turning out to be one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he brought this Rams offense to be one of the best in the league. This Rams team looked like they could be an every year contender in a year or two. Even though this was a great season with a ton of success, the Rams lost in the wildcard round to the Falcons, but don't worry, don't fear, they're gonna have many other chances to make it to the Super Bowl. The reason I say that is because the 2018 season was even better for the Rams. Todd Gurley was arguably even better in 2018. He had 1,251 yards and 17 touchdowns, which yet again led the league in rushing touchdowns. By the way, I forgot to mention that in 2017, Todd Gurley finished second in MVP voting. In 2018, he didn't finish anything in MVP voting, so just had to get that out of the way. Gurley had already established himself as the best running back in the NFL. He just did it furthermore this season. The 2018 Rams would start out 8-0 and finish 13-3 and finish with the 2nd seed in the NFC with very high expectations to make the Super Bowl. The Rams beat the Cowboys in the divisional round, and even though Todd Gurley did good, for some reason CJ Anderson had the game of his life. He had 23 attempts, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A very random game. He really deserves his own video, him and this game. In the NFC Championship game, well, they got lucky. In the 4th quarter of the 2018 NFC Championship, they killed Robbie Coleman right here, hit Tommy Lee Lewis, and what should have been a very obvious PI, but it was never called. Instead of draining out the clock and kicking a game-winning field goal, the Saints had to kick a field goal with 1:45 remaining and give the ball back to one of the best offenses in recent NFL history. The Rams would go on to win this game, and this missed PI call is the reason to blame. You could have blamed Drew Brees for throwing an interception in overtime, but if they call this PI call, then the Saints are going to win. However, in this game, Todd Gurley randomly disappeared. After the game, he said he was healthy, he was feeling good, but he only rushed for 4 attempts for only 10 yards. He had a touchdown though, but it's odd that he just disappeared. Little did anybody know that this would begin the downfall of Todd Gurley. But the season isn't over, and it's time to play the biggest game in American sports, the Super Bowl. It's time to step up. So how did Todd Gurley and the Rams do? Yeah. This was not a fun game. This was an embarrassment, not just for the Rams, but for football in general. And it's incredibly disappointing because the Rams were one of the best offenses in recent NFL history. Their best player from this game was Johnny freaking Hecker. And if you don't know who that is, I don't blame you because he's the punter of the team. A big reason why this offense went completely silent was because the Rams did not use Todd Gurley at all. And when they did use him, he went completely silent. Why would you stop using your best player on your offense in the 2 biggest games of your season? I mean, seriously, he says he's fine, but maybe he's not. Something fishy's going on. Those assumptions were true, as for Gurley in March of 2019 was under 25 years old. He was 24. Okay, well, despite all that bad news, somehow, some way, a team as talented as the 2019 Rams finished 9-7 and missed the playoffs entirely. But what about Todd Gurley? Todd Gurley was a disappointment as well. Even though he only missed 1 game, he finished under 900 yards and was a shell of himself of what he was in 2017 and 2018. It's important to know that Todd Gurley and the Rams, the NFL world was shocked when everybody found out that the Rams released Todd Gurley. Why would you release somebody who you signed a big contract to, did so much in such a little time, and is only 25? Why would you just get rid of somebody like that? The injuries in his health must have been that serious because, well, they straight up released him. But other teams didn't give up on Todd Gurley, as the Falcons signed Todd Gurley to a 1-year deal. Since it was a 1-year deal, he had a lot to prove, but hey, something cool about this is that he gets to return home to Georgia. But with a trio of him, Matt Ryan, and Julio Jones, expectations for the 2020 Falcons were that they could do some damage. So how did they do? This team was awful. They went 4-12 and were one of the worst teams in the league. Todd Gurley was also disappointing. This was maybe his worst season in his career. Even playing 15 games, he only had 678 yards. That was a career low for Todd Gurley. Something notable did happen this season to Todd Gurley though, as during the end of a game in a tight game against the Lions, Todd Gurley was trying not to score a touchdown so they wouldn't leave too much time on the clock, and he accidentally scored, and the Lions would end up winning the game. Todd Gurley wouldn't re-sign with the Falcons, and currently he's a free agent, and he hasn't played with a team since the Falcons in 2020. 3 years later, Todd Gurley hasn't officially retired, but it seems like that he's done with football. The sad career of Todd Gurley goes to show